Hi there, I'm Robert Willis, helping look after social media here at TransLink, and I've got a special story to bring you today, and it's about photography and art. And I'm joined today by Alinka Echeverría. Did I get your name right?
Echeverría.
Oh, you say it so much better than me. And we're doing a behind the scenes or behind the track look at some of the public art we've just had installed here the last couple of weeks as part of the Capture Festival. TransLink has partnered with the Capture Festival. This is a festival, if you're not familiar with it, that looks at photographic arts internationally and locally, and we're very pleased to be partnering with them, with an international artist who's also an award winner, and we want to talk about a piece that I'm standing in front of, one of them, one of 8 right now, that was selected for the festival. And I'm going to ask you a few questions about it, and looking forward to it. Now, first, who are you, other than a world-famous artist?
That's a very profound question. Well, my work, which is what I'm here to talk about today, is really about looking at the photographic medium through the history of the medium from an anthropological perspective and from a subjective perspective. So in my case, it's a Mexican female perspective. But it's a very subjective point of view. And I'm really interested in interrogating this medium that I use in my practice.
Now, what are the mediums that you like to work in best? Photography and...
Yeah, I've done sculpture and video, but I mostly work with photography.
Why do you like photography?
Well, I love photography for many reasons. One of the reasons is the temporality of photography and the interpretation that we give to photography and how the medium changes over time. So in this case, it was my first time working with archive, and I was very lucky to be selected for the BMW Art and Culture residency in France. So it was a 3-month residency in the Musée Nicephore-Niepce in the south of France, which is where Nicephore-Niepce made his first heliogravure, which is he's basically the forefather of photography, in 1839. So this museum has a huge archive of 3 million images, and I wanted to work with the archive, but also sort of use it as a place to take a pause from my normal practice and do something more experimental and more research-based. So it was completely one-of-a-kind project.
Great, and for those people that are online watching this, I assume you are, you can check out a video about that. I saw it on YouTube earlier today.
Yes, yes.
Fascinating. Now, what is the name of this work? This is one of 8, and we'll show you a little bit here later in the video what the rest look like. But what do you call, do you have a name for it?
The series, the project itself is called Nicephora. So one of the most interesting parts of my research was that I found out that Nicephore-Niepce was born Joseph, and he adopted the name Nicephore when he was 20, or in his 20s. So I was really interested in what that name meant, and it actually means bearer of light or victorious. And so I adopted it for myself and for my own project to kind of go back into the history of the medium since its origins. In Spanish and in French, when you add an A to something, you feminize it. So it was a kind of reappropriation with a feminine gaze. So the project is made up of various series. One is called Field Notes for Nicephora, and that's kind of crazy collages of all my research, quite haphazard, quite overwhelming, quite kaleidoscopic, which is exactly how I felt in an archive. And this series is called Procession of the Feminine. So this is more of a distillation of all that research. It's the second part of the project. And what I did was take images of women that I was looking at the archive, but in particular the archive from the colonial era of France, and I was kind of looking at this construction of women from those colonies and how they were sort of sent back to France through the photographic medium, through postcard medium. And then I started to look at how that was taken forward in photography, so that some of the images from the postcards looked exactly like the cover of Vogue in sort of their composition and their construction. So On another level, I was thinking about ceramics because Nicephore Niepce was obsessed with fixing light on matter, which I thought was really poetic. And he was obsessed with this idea of reproducing images onto ceramics. So I was thinking about ceramics, and I started to notice through my, looking at images of women every single day from this archive that a lot of them had vases in them. The vase just kept popping up as a symbol. And one day it just...
Femininity, right?
Yeah. So one day it just became evident that that I could use this metaphor of woman. So it's ceramics. It's supposed to be, this series is supposed to be transcultural, transhistorical. It really is. Ceramics has existed in most ancient civilizations as a vehicle to carry, to store grain, to store food, to carry water, to carry milk.
Yep.
So for me, it's very much about almost like nourishment. So this project, or this part of the project, is very simply images from the archive fused with ceramics from all over the world. And this is the idea that these constructions or these techniques are kind of fragile and breakable. So it was this idea of kind of breaking and rebuilding maybe the story of photography and how the image of the woman has been constructed from that. It's that form. But also, I mean, in one sense it speaks of the fragility, but in another sense, vases have always been culture carriers. Right. So if we think to ancient Greece, which is where the name Nicephore came from, they carry the mythology forward. Right. So for me, they're also kind of culture carriers of our contemporaneity. So it's the very last image, which you'll see, is the testing sheet. So some of them are images of women. In this case, it's photochromy, so it's how colors combine. So all photography is they're color systems which are either additive or subtractive color systems. And I love this because you have in the middle the light, this kind of purity. And it's also, this is called a globe vase or a moon vase. So this is one of my favorites, and this is a very, very early diagram of photochromie. And then the very last image in terms of chronology is the the RGB testing sheet. So when you make an inkjet print, you print that out. And I put that on a Greek amphor to make reference to the antiquity of ancient Greece.
So you're joining the ancient with the new.
Yeah.
And many things in between.
Yeah.
Now, if you're watching this and you're wondering where you are and you guessed Stadium Skytrain, Chinatown, you're correct. We're actually on the third platform right now. So you'll be able to see these pieces of art from the main platform. And they'll be here for another year. And another question I really want to ask you is, why display them at a public transit station? Why not just at one of the many galleries in Metro Vancouver?
Well, when I got this proposal, this commission, I was really excited because for me, art needs to be everywhere. We need to be surrounded by art all the time. One of my favorite quotes, which I recently heard, was it's actually a quote by Winston Churchill. And when someone proposed to him, why don't we take funding out of the arts and put it into the war effort, he said, well, what the hell are we fighting for then? So to me, it really is kind of what my life is about, in the sense that we need to be surprised by it, encounter it, and try and absorb it consciously. I think somehow we've been, blocked to seeing everything we see because we're overwhelmed. So if someone's surprised by the plainness of it maybe, or the lack of typography maybe, they'll kind of be more intrigued. So it's this idea of encountering on your daily commute to work, encountering it in a moment of surprise or a glance. I love that idea because it almost makes it somehow, almost tests the work more, because when you go to a museum, you're prepared psychologically to encounter art, and stand in front of it. And obviously it's more incredible to be there for a year, because I think over the course of time people will interact with it a little bit more.
So there is a plaque on the main platform that explains a little bit about work of art is about, and the artists, of course. And you've already touched on it, but is there anything you'd love for riders to take away when they look at this? Is there anything from just a visceral feeling up to anything else that you'd love for them to take away from the work?
I would love to take away from it that the idea here is that I blew the images up so much that we no longer saw the woman. What we saw is the technique behind this idea of what an image of a female is. And I think what I'd love to take away is just a little bit more reflection as a viewer of what you're looking at all the time, because one of the things that we are drawn to is familiarity, and I think marketing or the marketing of the female image is kind of like really it's a very heavy thing for in marketing, and I think it's just being more aware of the images you're surrounded by and how you consume them and how you construct them is what ideally I'd love to take away, which is harder than it seems. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank you for taking the time. I want to thank the Capture Festival for helping make this happen. And I know that you are off to a talk here in the next few minutes.
Yeah.
So thank you for making the trip. This is your first trip to Vancouver.
Yeah.
First trip to Canada? You've been to Canada before?
I've been to Toronto, yeah.
Okay, well now you're in Vancouver. Thank you for coming. Thank you for visiting us. Thank you for this wonderful piece of art. And
Thank
I hope you come back soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.